My mom forced me to go on a blind date. The other party was the eldest daughter of the Sterling family, an ice-cold female CEO with a net worth of billions. Rumor had it that she suffered from bipolar disorder, making her emotions extremely unstable. To ruin this marriage, I decided to play the part of a good-for-nothing perfectly. But why was she looking at me with eyes that looked at priceless treasures? My mom called. Her tone brooked no argument. "Julian Vance, get your ass to the Serene Lounge for your blind date. The other party is Serafina Sterling, the eldest daughter of the Sterling family. If you dare mess this up, I'll cut off all your credit cards. Me, Julian Vance, the only heir to the top-tier wealthy Vance family. My life goal could be summed up in 2 words: kickback. For this goal, I had been faking it for over 20 years, successfully establishing an image as an idle, ignorant wastrel in my circle. A blind date, and with the legendary ice-cold female CEO, Serafina Sterling, known for her iron fist and extremely unstable emotions. Wasn't this interfering with my goal of kicking back? I had to ruin it. The Serene Lounge, a top-tier private club, VIP room number 3. I deliberately arrived half an hour late, pushing open the door while humming an out-of-tune song. The woman across from me raised her eyes. In that instant, the entire room's temperature seemed to drop. She was wearing a well-tailored white suit, her long hair pulled back, revealing a swan-like elegant neck. Her features were so refined, they were flawless, but her eyes were as cold as glaciers that had never melted in 10,000 years. This was Serafina Sterling, truly living up to her reputation. Wow, huh? That face, that body, Fiske. What a pity she's an ice queen. And a workaholic supposedly has bipolar disorder too, cycling between mania and depression. Whoever marries her is doomed. I better hurry and get her to blacklist me in 3 sentences and go home to continue my kicking back career. I mentally complained like crazy, but on my face I wore a frivolous smile, plopping down across from her and crossing my legs casually. "Ms. Sterling, right? Sorry to keep you waiting. Traffic was terrible." The hand Serafina Sterling was about to use to pick up her water glass paused almost imperceptibly. She looked at me, and in those cold eyes for the first time, there was a hint of confusion. I didn't care and continued my performance. "Waiter, let's order." I pushed the menu in front of her and said with an air of extravagance, "Ms. Sterling, don't be shy. Order whatever you want. It's on me. Anyway, it's spending my dad's money, so I don't care. Hurry up and order. Then let's go. This chair is too hard. It's hurting my butt, nothing like my ergonomic gaming chair at home." Serafina Sterling's gaze became even stranger. Not only did she not show disdain, but the corner of her mouth seemed to slightly turn upwards. A hallucination. It must be a hallucination. She spoke softly, her voice as cold as her person. "Whatever, mister. Vance decides is fine." "Great." I snapped my fingers. "Then let's have the most expensive caviar and open a bottle of 82 Lafite. This place's caviar is salty and bitter. The Lafite tastes like industrial alcohol mixed with water. Only fools who don't know any better would be fooled. If she really orders it, her taste is just so. Better to go home and have my own homemade plum wine." Serafina Sterling's knuckles, holding the water glass, were slightly pale. She looked at me, and in those ice-cold pool-like eyes for the first time, there was a ripple. A few seconds later, she said to the waiter next to her, who looked shocked, "A glass of warm water, please." Then she looked at me. "I won't drink any alcohol. I'm allergic to it." Huh, this woman isn't playing by the rules. Shouldn't she be looking at me with disdain, calling me vulgar, and then flouncing off? No, I have to increase the dosage. I cleared my throat, leaned forward, put on what I thought was a very handsome expression, and said in a greasy tone, "Ms. Sterling, you're very beautiful. How about being my girlfriend? I'm not very talented, just have a few stinky bucks from my family. If you follow me, I guarantee you'll be wearing designer brands every day, driving sports cars, buying whatever you want." This should be disgusting enough, right? I waited for her to throw that glass of warm water in my face. However, Serafina Sterling just watched me quietly. That look, no longer cold, was more like studying a rare treasure. After a while, the phone she had placed on the table vibrated. The screen lit up, seemingly a work message from her assistant. I saw her brow furrow instantly. The coldness in her eyes reemerged, even with a hint of annoyance and pain. Is her bipolar disorder about to flare up? Great. Hurry up and flare up. Hurry up and flip the table and leave. Tisk, judging by that expression, she's probably having trouble at work. The assistant sending a message at this time is just asking for a scolding, right? No sense of timing at all. It must be a problem with the department's quarterly report. The data doesn't match up. Does she even need to ask the boss about something like that? Just get the finance and business managers together, cross-compare the data, and they can find the problem in 30 minutes. So stupid, really delaying me from getting off work. I was gleefully waiting to see a good show. Serafina Sterling suddenly picked up her phone, her slender fingers quickly tapping on screen. A few seconds later, she put down her phone and looked up again. Something magical happened. The annoyance and pain between her brows had actually disappeared. Her eyes were still cold, but the suffocating pressure was gone. She looked at me with a hint of inquiry, a hint of curiosity, and a hint of something I couldn't understand. Then, to my astonishment, her red lips parted slightly, uttering words that shattered my worldview. Okay, we could try. Okay, we could try. The greasy smile on my face froze. My ears were ringing, as if I had been punched in the face. What the hell? Try? Try what? Try cremating me and scattering my ashes? Does this woman have a problem with her brain? I've acted so scummy, and she actually agreed? Could it be that she's into this? Serafina Sterling looked at my instantly dazed expression, and a faint smile flashed in her clear eyes, so fast it was like an illusion. You heard me right, she repeated, her voice still not very warm, but a little softer than before. We can start by dating and try to get to know each other. I opened my mouth but couldn't say a word. That's not how the script was supposed to go. According to the normal procedure, she should have already cursed me out, put me on the blacklist of people she would never associate with. And finally, our two families' marriage alliance would fall through, and I would continue to go home and lie flat. What is this? Dying before I even had a chance to fight. It's over, I'm done for. If my mom finds out that I managed to win over the Ice Queen CEO in one go, wouldn't she force me to go to work at the company every day from now on? My lying flat life, my 8 major cuisines, my homemade rice wine. Are they all going to leave me? My heart was filled with wails, the color drained from my face, and I looked like I had lost the will to live. Serafina Sterling looked at my pale face, and instead of getting angry, she took the serving chopsticks and gave me a piece of steamed sea bass that I didn't even order. You don't look too good, she said calmly. Eat more. I looked at the fish in my bowl, feeling like I was looking at a branding iron. This woman is definitely sick, and seriously sick. The more useless I act, the more concerned she is. Is this the legendary masochist? Serafina Sterling paused again with the serving chopsticks. She looked up and gave me a deep look. That look was extremely complex, like she was looking at a spoiled child. I don't like caviar and red wine, she said suddenly, explaining. I only like Chinese food. What a coincidence, so do I. Especially this steamed sea bass. The cooking time is just right, too much and it's overcooked, too little and it's raw. Looks like the chef's skills are good. Too bad. I don't have any appetite right now. Serafina Sterling pretended not to see my constipated expression and also picked up a piece, eating it in small bites. Her eating manners were very elegant. Every movement was pleasing to the eye. However, always felt like she was holding back a smile. I ate this meal like chewing wax, feeling like I was sitting on pins and needles. Serafina Sterling, on the other hand, seemed to have a good appetite and ate a lot. Throughout the entire meal, we didn't say anything else. But my inner monologue never stopped. I can't live like this. I have to find a way to make her hate me. Got it. Next date. I'll take her to an internet cafe to play games all night. Then go eat roadside Molotang. I don't believe a $1 trillion CEO can handle that. The corner of Seraphina Sterling's mouth curved again in a very subtle arc. After the meal, I fled the club, feeling like I had just returned from an execution ground. As soon as I got into the car, my mom's phone call came, her voice filled with an irrepressible joy. "Son, you've really made me proud. The Sterling family called and said Seraphina is very satisfied with you." Very satisfied. Everything went black before my eyes. "Mom, it's a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding." My mom interrupted me excitedly. "Seraphina told her parents herself that she thinks you're very authentic, not fake, not like those flashy bitches outside." Authentic? Not fake? I'm acting to the point of multiple personality disorder, and she calls that authentic? Goddamn authentic. Did she take all my inner complaints as my real thoughts? No way. Is there really such a thing as mind reading in this world? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Something must be wrong somewhere. I hung up the phone, floored the gas pedal. The sports car roared and sped away. What I didn't know was that after I left, Seraphina Sterling got in her Bentley. Her personal assistant, Ms. Collins, sat in the passenger seat, looking incredulous. "Ms. Sterling, are you really going to date Mr. Vance?" Ms. Collins has been with Seraphina Sterling for 5 years and knows her personality well. Not to mention Julian Vance, a notorious playboy. She wouldn't even glance at the city's most outstanding young talents. Seraphina Sterling leaned back in the seat, rubbing her temples. Since yesterday, her bipolar disorder had entered a manic phase, and she was in a state of irritability where she felt like she was about to explode, and she didn't like anything she saw. But just now, when she heard Julian Vance's inner complaint, "Wow, hot," the string in her head that had been tightened to the breaking point suddenly loosened. The messy, wild, but inexplicably sensible mumblings in his heart were like a chaotic and harmonious symphony, miraculously soothing her manic emotions. This was the first time in 5 years that she had escaped that hellish irritability without medication. "Ms. Collins," Seraphina Sterling said faintly, her eyes closed, "help me find out where the most famous Mala Tang place in the South Side is." "Doesn't Ms. Sterling never eat these things?" Seraphina Sterling didn't explain, but the corners of her mouth curved into an imperceptible smile. "All-night internet cafe? Roadside stalls? Interesting. I spent the next few days on tenterhooks." Afraid that Seraphina Sterling would call and say she wanted to go on a date with me. I didn't dare to go out for 3 days in a row, and I stayed at home researching how to make wine, trying to numb myself with alcohol. I can't live like this. My laid-back life plan is about to be declared bankrupt before it even starts. What does Seraphina Sterling see in me? Could it be that my disguise is too successful, making her think I'm no threat and a perfect tool for a marriage of convenience? I lamented in my heart while filtering the grape skins. The phone suddenly rang. The screen flashed 3 words, Seraphina Sterling. My hand shook, and I almost overturned the entire tank of grape juice. What's coming is coming. I took a deep breath, answered the phone, and tried to make my voice sound very dissolute. "Hey, is that the beautiful Seraphina?" "Missed me." There was a 2-second silence on the other end of the phone. "Where are you?" Seraphina Sterling's cold voice came. "At home, just bored." I continued to act. "Want to go out and have some fun? Come on, let's hurt each other." I prepared a deluxe tour package of the dirty and messy South Side, guaranteed to be unforgettable. "Okay," Seraphina Sterling's answer was concise. "Wait for me at home. I'll pick you up." Beep, beep, beep. The phone hung up. I froze in place. She's picking me up? The script is wrong again. Shouldn't I be driving my flashy pink sports car to pick her up and then be looked at with disgust? Half an hour later, an understated black Bentley stopped in front of my villa. I changed into what I thought was my most flamboyant outfit, a t-shirt with a huge skull printed on it, jeans with more than a dozen holes, and a pair of flip-flops on my feet. I staggered into the car. The air conditioning was on in the car, and a faint fragrance lingered in my nose. Seraphina Sterling was still in a neat suit, looking at documents on a tablet. She raised her eyes and glanced at me, her gaze pausing on my flip-flops for 1/10 of a second. I was delighted. Yes, that's the look. Disgusted with me. Quickly be disgusted with me. And kick me out of the car. However, Serafina Sterling just said lightly, "Drive." The car drove away smoothly. "Where are we going?" I asked knowingly. "Didn't you arrange everything?" she retorted. My heart skipped a beat. How does she know I arranged everything? Did Ms. Collins' assistant tell her? No, I didn't tell anyone. I decided to play along and announce an address. Go to the South Side Night Market. The driver's hand slipped and the steering wheel swerved a little. Ms. Collins looked at me in the rearview mirror, her eyes like she was looking at an alien. Only Serafina Sterling, expressionless, just hummed, as if I had mentioned not a dirty, chaotic night market, but a Michelin 3-star restaurant. The atmosphere in the car was strange. I tried to strike up a conversation. What does Ms. Sterling usually do? Don't talk to me about work. I don't understand a word. Stocks, funds, futures. It makes my head spin. Serafina Sterling turned a page of her documents and said faintly, "Look at contracts, attend meetings, occasionally deal with some clueless idiots." I gave a dry laugh. See, I knew it. A boring woman. There's nothing in her life but work. So pathetic. Serafina Sterling's fingers stopped turning the pages. She looked up, her beautiful eyes staring directly at me. "What about you?" she asked. "What else is there in your life besides lying flat?" I felt a little unnerved by her gaze. Me? My life is rich, I bragged. Drinking, clubbing, playing games. Life is short. Seize the day. Actually, I prefer to work out at home, research recipes, brew some wine, and watch obscure movies. Clubbing is too loud. It hurts my ears. Serafina Sterling's gaze became distant. "Is that so?" she said softly. "I also watch movies." "Oh, you do?" I became interested. "What do you like to watch? The Wolf of Wall Street? The Godfather?" This workaholic probably only watches business movies to learn how to exploit employees. Serafina Sterling shook her head. She was silent for a moment, seemed hesitant, but finally spoke. Kikujiro's Summer, I was stunned. Kikujiro's Summer, That heartwarming road movie about a useless uncle and a little boy? She watches movies like that. I looked at her cold profile, and in the flowing light and shadow outside the window, that coldness seemed to be melting away, revealing a hint of imperceptible softness. My heart, inexplicably, was gently touched. This woman seems different from what I expected. The South Side Night Market. A hubbub of voices, smoky fumes. The air was filled with the cumin scent of grilled skewers and the distinctive odor of stinky tofu. I was wearing flip-flops, walking on the greasy ground, feeling completely comfortable. And Serafina Sterling, next to me, in a haute couture suit and 7-centimeter heels, stood in this chaos like a deity who had strayed into the mortal realm, incompatible with everything around her. Everyone who passed by cast glances at us. Men looked at Serafina Sterling, women looked at me. Their eyes were full of regret, Beauty and the Beast, a flower stuck in cow dung. I was very satisfied with this effect. Yes, that's it. Let her experience the gaze of the masses. Let her know we're not from the same world. Quick, leave if you can't stand it. I deliberately led her into the most crowded area. Ms. Sterling, look how lively it is here. I pointed to a ring toss stall and said excitedly, "Let's play that." Serafina Sterling looked at the colorful, cheap toys, and her brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. I knew she was reaching her limit. However, she just nodded. Okay. She's still not leaving? Her will is strong. Fine, today I'll let you see what true grassroots entertainment is. I pulled her to a spicy hot pot stall where the tables and chairs were covered with a layer of grease. "Boss, 2 bowls of spicy hot pot. Extra spicy." I shouted boldly. I looked provocatively at Serafina Sterling. "Ms. Sterling, can you handle it? You can tell me if you can't. I won't force you." Serafina Sterling looked at the pot of boiling red broth and remained silent. Her assistant, Ms. Collins, was almost in tears, desperately winking at me. I knew Serafina Sterling had severe cleanliness issues and a weak stomach, only eating ingredients prepared by top-tier restaurants. This bowl of spicy hot pot would land her in the hospital for sure. Say you can't stand it. Say it's dirty. Say you want to leave. I screamed inwardly. Just when I thought she was about to storm off, an arrogant voice cut in. "Oh, isn't this Mr. Vance? How did you stoop to eating this garbage?" I turned around and, great, it was an acquaintance. Landon Pierce, another rich second generation in our circle, had always disliked me, thinking I ruined their image. He was followed by a few lackeys, all looking at me with mockery. When he saw Serafina Sterling beside me, his eyes went wide. Ms. Sterling? What are you doing here?" Landon Pierce's expression was wonderful. Shock, confusion, and jealousy. Serafina Sterling didn't even bother to give him a glance. Landon Pierce's face turned green and white. He turned his anger towards me. "Julian Vance, you're really something, bringing Ms. Sterling to a place like this. What are you planning?" I picked at my ear, acting nonchalant. "I feel like it. Is it any of your business?" This idiot came at the perfect time, a divine assist. Hurry up and scold me more. Let Serafina Sterling see what kind of riffraff I hang out with. Let her be completely disappointed in me. "You!" Landon Pierce was furious. "Ms. Sterling, don't be fooled by him. He's an uneducated, good-for-nothing, who can only spend money. You're lowering your status by being with him." More and more onlookers gathered, pointing and whispering at us. I was secretly delighted. Yes, that's right, good scolding. Give me more. It's best to describe me as a complete scumbag. Serafina Sterling finally reacted. She slowly raised her eyes, her icy gaze landing on Landon Pierce. "Are you finished?" Landon Pierce shuddered under her gaze, but he still said stubbornly, "Ms. Sterling, I'm doing this for your own good." Serafina Sterling twitched her lips into a cold curve. "Since when is it your place to comment on my affairs?" And she paused, turning her gaze to me, and just when I thought she was about to say, "Let's end this," she did something that made everyone's eyes pop out. She reached out and naturally took my arm. Then she looked at the dumbfounded Landon Pierce and announced, word by word, "Whether he's useless or not, I know better than you. And even if he is, I like him." The entire night market seemed to be muted. Landon Pierce's jaw dropped, so wide you could fit an egg in it. The bystanders forgot to skewer their grilled skewers. I was also stunned. A soft touch came from my arm, along with the pleasant cold fragrance of her body, constantly entering my nose. My brain went blank. She said what? She likes me? Likes me, this useless person? Is this woman crazy? To anger that idiot Landon Pierce, she would say something like that? "Big sister, you're an ice-cold female CEO? Your persona is collapsing, you know?" Serafina Sterling seemed to sense my stiffness. She tightened her grip on my arm. Then she pulled me to sit down at the greasy table. She held my arm like that and said to the terrified owner, "Boss, 2 bowls of spicy hot pot. 1 without spice. Thank you." The owner woke up as if from a dream, scrambling to cook the noodles. Landon Pierce's face had turned liver-colored. Being slapped in the face so publicly by the goddess in his heart, he felt like he was about to explode on the spot. "Serafina Sterling, you'll regret this." He threw down a harsh word and fled with his followers. I looked at his back and didn't feel any schadenfreude. I just want to cry now. "Big sister, what exactly do you want?" The headlines tomorrow will be Ice Queen CEO falls for useless rich kid, publicly declares love. How am I supposed to relax and live comfortably now? The malatang was served quickly. 1 bowl was swimming in red oil, the other was plain broth. Serafina Sterling released my arm, picked up her chopsticks, elegantly selected a green vegetable, put it in her mouth, and chewed slowly. Her movements made it seem like she wasn't eating malatang that cost 5 yuan a bowl, but some kind of state banquet delicacy. "Aren't you going to eat?" She looked up at me. I looked at the bowl of bright red malatang in front of me and suddenly lost my appetite. Eat what? My mind is a mess right now. This woman is too scary, completely unpredictable. I feel like I'm Sun Wukong, and I can't escape her palm no matter what I do. I picked up my chopsticks and listlessly poked at the food. The spiciness shot straight to the top of my head, stinging my eyes until they watered. Cough, cough, cough. A handkerchief was offered to me. It was Seraphina Sterling's. It still carried that pleasant, cool fragrance of hers. If you can't handle the spice, don't force yourself. Her voice didn't reveal any emotion. I took the handkerchief, wiped my mouth haphazardly, and felt my face burning. I didn't know if it was from the spice or something else. That night, I couldn't sleep. Seraphina Sterling's words, "Even if he is, I still like him," kept replaying in my head, as well as the soft touch and cold temperature when she took my arm. The next morning, I went downstairs with dark circles under my eyes. My mom was sitting in the living room, holding a tablet and smiling from ear to ear. "Son, come and see. You're in the headlines." I went over to take a look and almost choked. Hashtag shocking. Billionaire CEO Seraphina Sterling settles on Vance family's useless young master. Publicly protects husband at night market hashtag Beauty and the Beast. No, it's immortal love. Hashtag in-depth analysis. What charms does Julian Vance possess that can melt an iceberg? The accompanying photos were of Seraphina Sterling taking my arm and angrily confronting Landon Pierce from the night before. The photos were taken skillfully, making Seraphina Sterling look like a guardian knight, and me, the submissive little wife, behind her. My vision blurred. It's over, it's all over. My useless persona is now on its way to becoming the spoiled little husband protected by a domineering female so in the eyes of the whole city. My phone started vibrating like crazy. It was all congratulatory messages and gossip from my friends. "Julian, you're amazing. How did you win over the Ice Queen? Give us the tutorial." "Holy crap, Julian Vance. Did you put a spell on her or something?" I threw the phone aside in annoyance. Just then, an unfamiliar number called. I answered impatiently. "Who is it?" A steady, yet slightly weary, female voice came from the other end of the line. "Is this Mr. Vance?" "I'm Ms. Sterling's assistant, Ms. Collins." "Ms. Sterling, something's happened to her." My heart skipped a beat. What happened? Could it be? Was that bowl of malatang that powerful? Did it send her straight to the hospital? Does that make me the culprit? "Ms. Collins' voice on the phone was anxious. "No, Ms. Sterling has been locked in her office all day today, refusing to see anyone, not approving documents, and canceling meetings. I'm worried about her." She didn't finish, but I understood. Seraphina Sterling's bipolar disorder had been triggered. This time it was the depressive phase. "Has she been like this before?" I asked. "Yes, but this time it seems especially serious." Ms. Collins' voice was tearful. "Mr. Vance, I know this request is presumptuous, but could you come over?" Yesterday, when Ms. Sterling was with you. Her condition was the best it's been in years." I was silent. "Me? What'd I do there? I'm not a psychologist. Besides, I'm trying to avoid her. I don't give a damn if she's doing well or not." I thought so in my heart, but my mouth betrayed me and said, "Send me the address." After hanging up the phone, I irritably scratched my hair. I must be crazy, but the thought of Seraphina Sterling's cold face and the icy temperature when she held on to me, I couldn't just sit idly by. Forget it. Just think of it as returning the favor for yesterday's spicy hot pot. I'll take a look and leave, and won't stay a minute longer. Half an hour later, I appeared downstairs at Seraphina Sterling's company, Stellar Group. This most luxurious office building, standing in downtown, was the business empire that Seraphina Sterling had built with her own hands. Ms. Collins was already waiting for me in the lobby, looking at me as if I were a savior. "Mr. Vance, you've finally arrived." She led me to the president's private elevator, going straight to the top floor. Outside the president's office door, several senior executives were waiting anxiously. When they saw me, they all showed the same expressions as the passersby I saw at the night market yesterday. Shock, confusion, and a hint of contempt. I couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. Ms. Collins pushed open the heavy office door and gestured for me to please enter. I walked in. In front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window, Serafina Sterling stood with her back to me. She was still wearing a suit, but her figure looked incredibly lonely and fragile, like a butterfly with broken wings. The entire office was filled with a suffocating low pressure. I cleared my throat, breaking the silence. "Hey, I'm here." Serafina Sterling didn't turn around. I bit the bullet and walked over, standing next to her. "The assistant said you locked yourself in. What's wrong? Is the company going bankrupt?" I said in my usual flippant tone. "Damn, the atmosphere is too oppressive. What should I say? Comfort her? I don't know how. Should I tell her a joke? Forget it. The jokes I tell are all too cold." Serafina Sterling still didn't react. I was a little impatient. "Hey, say something. Are you mute? What's this woman up to? Doesn't say a word. Just called me here as decoration? What a waste of my time." I even made plans to go fishing. Just as I was mentally complaining like crazy, Serafina Sterling finally moved. She slowly turned around. I was stunned. There was no expression on her face, but her eyes were like a bottomless black hole, full of despair and deathly silence. No coldness, no sharpness, only endless emptiness. My heart felt like it was being clenched tightly by an invisible hand. It hurt. "Leave." She spoke, her voice terribly hoarse. "You're not welcome here. Leave." I didn't know where the anger came from and grabbed her wrist. Her wrist was so thin that it seemed like it would break with a snap, and it was frighteningly cold. "I came all this way. You want me to leave just because you say so? What about my pride?" Damn, her hands are so cold. Has this woman not eaten? Her complexion is so bad too. What a pain. While I was mentally grumbling, I grabbed her and forcibly pushed her onto the sofa. "Sit down. Don't move." I looked around and saw a coffee machine and some snacks on a nearby bar. I walked over and skillfully started operating it. "Can't drink coffee. It'll worsen anxiety. These snacks look like they'd kill my appetite. What's in the fridge? Milk? Fine. I'll heat up a glass of milk for her. At least it'll warm her stomach." Soon, a cup of steaming hot milk was placed in front of her. "Drink it," I said in a commanding tone. Serafina Sterling looked at the milk, then at me, and a glimmer of light finally appeared in her empty eyes. She didn't move. I flared up, directly picked up the cup, and held it to her mouth. "I'm telling you to drink. Don't you understand human speech?" My movements were rough, and my tone was terrible. But Serafina Sterling seemed to be bewitched, obediently opening her mouth and taking small sips. The warm milk slid down her throat, seeming to warm her icy body. After she finished drinking, I slammed the cup heavily on the table. "All right, you've had the milk. I've repaid the favor. I'm leaving." I turned and left, without any hesitation. "Get out of here. Staying any longer, I feel like I'm going to get depressed too. This woman is messing with my desire to just chill and do nothing." I walked to the door, my hand just reaching for the doorknob. Behind me, a very, very light voice with a hint of trembling came. "Don't go." My steps faltered. I didn't turn around. "What's the deal? Are you really latching onto me? I'm not your personal emotional garbage can." "You stay." Serafina Sterling's voice was still very light, but a little clearer than before. "Keep me company for a while." I clicked my tongue in annoyance. "Why should I? Are you going to pay me? Damn it, I hate this kind of clinginess the most. I'd rather go home and play a few more games." Although I thought so in my heart, my feet were rooted to the spot, unable to move. Behind me, there was a slight sound of footsteps. A cold fragrance approached. Then, I felt the corner of my clothes being gently tugged. The force was very small, so small that I could shake it off with a jerk. But I didn't. I froze in place, feeling the touch of the fabric on my back, like an electric current running through me. 1 hour, Serafina Sterling said behind me. "Stay here for 1 hour, Stellar Group's the West End plot. I'll give it to you." I turned around abruptly. The West End plot? That was the hottest prime real estate in the entire city recently. My dad had been working on it for months without success, and it was said that Serafina Sterling planned to use it to build Stellar Group's new headquarters. She's saying now, she's giving it to me? Spoiled brat. Such a large piece of land, giving it away like that. Do you think your family runs a bank? All right, her family actually does have a bank. Even if you have money, you don't just throw it around like that. This woman is really crazy. I looked at her, and she looked at me. Her eyes were no longer empty, but had a glimmer of light with a kind of cautious anticipation, like a little animal afraid of being abandoned by its owner. That bit of impatience in my heart instantly dissipated, leaving only a kind of indescribable irritability and softness. Who wants your land? I said stubbornly, but I still turned around and walked back to the sofa to sit down. 1 hour, not a minute more. Serafina Sterling's eyes instantly lit up. That was the first time I saw such obvious emotion on her face, like fireworks blooming in the night. She sat down on a single sofa next to me, without saying anything else, just quietly looking at me. The atmosphere became awkward again. I felt uncomfortable all over from her staring. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a handsome guy before? I know I'm handsome, but you don't have to stare like that, right? It makes me feel like a monkey in a zoo. I took out my phone from my pocket and started scrolling through short videos. Various funny voiceovers and music came from the videos. I watched with relish and occasionally laughed. Ha ha, this dog is so stupid. This special effect is too cheap, laughing to death. I was immersed in my own world, completely unaware that Serafina Sterling beside me. Her lips also followed mine, slightly upturned. She just sat there quietly, listening to the chaotic sounds coming from my phone, listening to all the random complaints in my head, her eyes growing softer. The suffocating low pressure in the office had unknowingly dissipated without a trace. An hour passed quickly. My phone alarm rang, and I stood up immediately. Time's up, I'm leaving. This time, Serafina Sterling didn't stop me. She just stood up and said to me, "Thank you." I waved my hand and left without looking back. Finally free. But the way she looked just now, she looked a bit pitiful. Forget it. I don't want to think about it. Going home to lie down. I went home and collapsed in a bed. The next day, I was awakened by my dad's roar. "Julian Vance, you brat, get down here." Dazed, I walked downstairs and saw my dad holding a document, his hands trembling. When did you acquire the West End plot?" I was stunned. She actually gave it to me. My dad slammed the document on the table. It was an official land transfer contract from Stellar Group, and in the recipient column, my name was prominently written. What on earth did Serafina Sterling see in you? My dad was completely baffled. I've seen people give cars and houses, but giving away land directly is a first for me. I want to know too. This matter became the biggest mystery in the circle. Everyone couldn't understand why the Ice Queen CEO, Serafina Sterling, would look at me, this useless person, with such different eyes. Some even started conspiracy theories, saying that I must have some dirt on Serafina Sterling. To this, I just wanted to say, I wish I did, but I can't even remember her full phone number. The West End plot incident made my dad look at me with new eyes. The way he looked at me changed from disappointed in my lack of ambition to now investigative and scrutinizing. He even started indirectly asking me if I wanted to intern at the company. I was so scared that I quickly waved my hand, saying that this was purely an accident and that I was still the useless person who only wanted to lie flat. Just kidding, go to work at the company? That would be worse than killing me. This day, I was at home tinkering with my newly brewed peach blossom wine. Serafina Sterling's phone call came again. My hand trembled again. Why is this woman calling again? Wasn't this supposed to be a one-time favor? Does it even come with after-sales service? I resigned myself to answering the phone. What now? My tone was sharp. There's a charity gala tonight. Come with me. On the other end of the phone was her undeniable command. I'm not going. I refused immediately. Those places are the most boring. A bunch of people wearing masks and flattering each other. I'd rather stay home and drink. And I have to wear a suit, which is so tight I can't breathe. Landon Pierce will also be there. I immediately became alert. What's that idiot doing there? He definitely wants to cause trouble for me and show off in front of you. Why should I care what he does? I said disdainfully. He's been pursuing me recently. Damn it, that idiot really isn't giving up. A toad wanted to eat swan meat. Even if this swan has some brain issues, she's not someone a toad like you can touch. An inexplicable fire rose in my heart. Address. Time. I asked fiercely. On the other end of the phone, Serafina Sterling's lips curved into a victorious smile again. That night, I put on a suit that my dad had custom-made at a high price and appeared at the gala with a disgruntled expression. Serafina Sterling was already waiting at the entrance. Tonight, she was wearing a black backless evening gown, noble, sexy, like a black rose with thorns. Making her entrance, she immediately attracted everyone's attention. She walked over naturally and took my arm. Once again, I smelled that familiar, cold fragrance emanating from her. "You're here," she said. "What else?" I said irritably. "We agreed, just act as a shield, and we'll be even when it's over." Damn, how can this woman be so beautiful today? That back is too white. Don't look at what you shouldn't. Don't look at what you shouldn't. My gaze uncontrollably drifted towards her smooth back. Serafina Sterling's body seemed to stiffen slightly. A suspicious blush crept up her ears. Just as I was wondering, that annoying Landon Pierce came over with a wine glass. He looked presentable today, and his eyes turned red when he saw our intimate pose. "Julian Vance, a piece of trash like you. What right do you have to stand next to Ms. Sterling?" he said through gritted teeth. I couldn't be bothered with him. It's a waste of breath to talk to an idiot. Seeing that I ignored him, Landon Pierce became even more angry. He turned to Serafina Sterling, wearing a heartbroken expression. "Ms. Sterling, why can't you see his true colors?" Just then, the host of the banquet, the highly respected business magnate, Mr. Wallace, walked over. "Serafina, and this is Mr. Wallace looked at me with a smile. Before Serafina Sterling could speak, Landon Pierce interjected. "Mr. Wallace, this is Julian Vance, the good-for-nothing spendthrift from the Vance family." Mr. Wallace made an "oh" sound, a hint of understanding and contempt flashing in his eyes. I sneered inwardly. Just another old man who judges by appearances. Serafina Sterling's face turned cold. Just as she was about to speak, I preempted her. I squeezed Serafina Sterling's hand, signaling her not to speak. Then I looked at Mr. Wallace and said with a grin, "Hello, Mr. Wallace. I'm Julian Vance. Everyone says I'm useless, but honestly, I think it's pretty good to be useless. Eating and drinking, no need to use my brain. How comfortable is that?" Mr. Wallace's brow furrowed. Landon Pierce, on the other hand, looked smug. I looked at them, calculating in my mind. This Mr. Wallace seems to like collecting wine. That bottle of King's Reserve sherry in his lounge should be his prized possession, right? It's a pity that the wine has gone a bit sour due to improper storage. In another 3 months, it will be completely ruined. These words only flashed through my mind. However, Serafina Sterling, who was holding my arm, suddenly spoke. She looked at Mr. Wallace and said lightly, "Mr. Wallace, I heard you recently acquired a bottle of King's Reserve sherry?" Mr. Wallace was taken aback, then laughed heartily. "Ha, Serafina, you're well informed. That's right, that's my treasure." Serafina Sterling nodded, then changed the subject. "Although this person next to me, Julian, doesn't pay attention to other things, he's quite knowledgeable about wine." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a hint of encouragement and mischief. "Julian, didn't you just say you had some opinions about Mr. Wallace's wine? Why don't you tell Mr. Wallace? When did I say I had any opinions? I was just thinking it." I suddenly looked at Serafina Sterling, who was looking back at me with an innocent expression. At that moment, an absurd idea struck me like lightning. She can hear my thoughts. The world was silent at that moment. I stared intently at Serafina Sterling, my mind blank, my heart pounding as if it was about to jump out of my throat. She can hear. She can hear. She could hear from the beginning. No wonder I've been acting so hard, but not only does she not dislike me, but she's also becoming more and more interested in me. It turns out she's been watching my inner drama the whole time. She's been playing me. The complaints during the blind date, the plans at the night market, the complaints in the office. She knows everything. She knows everything. It's not just barbecue this time. It's direct cremation on the spot. My face turned pale, and cold sweat seeped from my forehead. And Serafina Sterling, seeing the terrified expression on my face, finally, completely, revealed a clear, mischievous smile in those cold eyes. She even lightly winked at me. That wink, in my opinion, was simply a signal from the devil. Mr. Wallace and Landon Pierce were still in the dark. Mr. Wallace looked at me with great interest. Oh, Mr. Vance has an opinion on my wine? Why don't you tell us? If you're right, I'll open it today, and we'll taste it together. Landon Pierce sneered disdainfully. What does a playboy like him know about wine? Mr. Wallace, don't be fooled by him. He probably only knows about Lafite. My brain was a complete mess right now. What to say? What do I say? Do I say I can foresee the future and know that your bottle of wine is about to go bad? Wouldn't that make me seem like a lunatic? Serafina Sterling saw me frozen in place and gently nudged me with her elbow. Don't be afraid, just tell the truth. A gentle and smiling voice rang directly in my mind. I was shocked. This wasn't a hallucination. This is telepathy. You can still talk to me? I asked in my mind in terror. Yes. Serafina Sterling's response was concise and clear. Hurry up, Mr. Wallace is waiting. Don't embarrass me. Me? Embarrass me? All the face I had in this life has been lost today. Now that things have come to this, I can only go all in. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down, and put on a profound and unpredictable look. Mr. Wallace. I looked at him and slowly began. That bottle of King's Reserve sherry, is it stored in the mahogany wine cabinet in your study? Mr. Wallace's smile froze. How do you know? I also know that the wine cabinet is facing the east window. The weather has been humid recently, and the temperature difference between morning and evening is large. Although the sunlight doesn't directly shine on it, the changes in temperature and humidity have already affected the quality of the wine. I continued to spout nonsense. No, it was saying what I had calculated. Damn it, I'm going all in. Just treat me like a fortune teller. Mr. Wallace's expression completely changed. The contempt on his face disappeared without a trace, replaced by shock and seriousness. You continue. Sherry is warm in nature and most sensitive to drastic temperature changes. The more I spoke, the smoother it went. That bottle of yours, the initial taste is still acceptable when you drink it now, but the aftertaste must have a slight, almost imperceptible sourness. If you continue to store it like this for another 3 months, the wine will definitely be completely ruined, and then it will really become a bottle of sour water. When I finished speaking, the whole place was silent. Landon Pierce opened his mouth wide, wanting to refute, but couldn't say a word, because what I said was too specific and too professional. Mr. Wallace stared at me intently, sweat breaking out on his forehead. He suddenly slapped his thigh. Someone, quick, go get my bottle of wine and invite Mr. Dubois over. Mr. Dubois is the top sommelier in the country. Soon, the wine was carefully brought over, and Mr. Dubois was also invited to the scene. Under everyone's gaze, Mr. Dubois opened the bottle, poured the wine, smelled it, and tasted it. During the whole process, everyone held their breath. A few dozen seconds later, Mr. Dubois put down his glass and said to Mr. Wallace with a serious expression, Mr. Wallace, what this young gentleman said is absolutely accurate. Boom. The crowd exploded. Everyone looked at me with the eyes of someone looking at a monster. Landon Pierce's face could no longer be described as liver-colored. It was simply a palette of colors. And I, amidst everyone's shock, slowly turned my head and looked at the culprit next to me. Serafina Sterling was looking up at me, her beautiful eyes sparkling with a light I had never seen before. There was admiration, pride, and an unshakable smile. How is it, she said in my mind, being a hero feels good, right? I looked at her, gritted my teeth, and replied in my mind as well. Go my foot. Serafina Sterling, you just wait. For the rest of the evening, I became the focus of the whole party. The business tycoons who had previously looked at me with contempt were now coming over with wine glasses, enthusiastically calling me Master Julian. Mr. Wallace even held my hand, moved to tears, and insisted on becoming sworn brothers with me. Landon Pierce had long since disappeared like a stray dog, not knowing which corner he had slunk off to. I was surrounded by this group of people, feeling mentally and physically exhausted, trying to cope. And Serafina Sterling just stood quietly beside me, like a true hostess, elegantly fending off some unnecessary harassment for me. Whenever I couldn't handle it, she would give me a friendly reminder in my head. The bald guy on the left is in real estate, trying to pump you for information. Ignore him. The fat guy on the right is his archenemy. You can chat with him about food, drink, and entertainment. He likes that. Don't frown. Smile. You look better when you smile than when you cry. I felt like a marionette, and Serafina Sterling was the puppeteer controlling everything. This feeling was terrible, but also a little strange. I finally managed to survive until the end of the banquet. I practically fled, dragging Serafina Sterling away from the venue. Sitting in her Bentley, I finally exploded. Serafina Sterling. I stared at her fiercely. What exactly do you want? Serafina Sterling looked at me leisurely, as if admiring a cat with its fur standing on end. I don't want anything, she said faintly. I just think you're very interesting. Her thoughts clearly transmitted into my head. I was so angry, I almost vomited blood. Interesting? You're playing me like a monkey, and you think it's interesting? I'm not playing you. Serafina Sterling's expression was serious. I just like hearing your thoughts. It's 10,000 times more interesting than listening to those boring financial statements. I was speechless. When did this start? I asked through gritted teeth. The first time we met. So, all my plans to sabotage the blind dates, you knew about them? Yes, she nodded, a smile still on her lips. Especially when you want to take me to the internet cafe for an all-nighter. That was very creative. My vision went black, and I felt like I had suffered a ton of damage. I covered my face and let out a desperate groan. You're invading my privacy. It's illegal. I made a last-ditch effort. Oh, Serafina Sterling raised an eyebrow. Go sue me then. See if the judge believes that there's someone in this world who can hear other people's thoughts. Complete defeat. I completely gave up resisting and collapsed onto the seat like a puddle of mud. Then what exactly do you want? I asked weakly. Continue the marriage alliance? And then you listen to me complaining about you every day for fun. Serafina Sterling was silent. The atmosphere in the car suddenly changed. She looked at me, the teasing in her eyes gone, replaced by a serious and profound look. Julian Vance, she called my name, her voice very soft. Have you ever thought about what your thoughts mean to me? I was stunned. What does it mean? Isn't it just free stand-up comedy? I have bipolar disorder, she calmly stated this fact. When I'm manic, I feel like the whole world wants to destroy me, and I'm so agitated that I want to kill someone. When I'm depressed, I feel like there's no point in living, and I just want to jump from here. She pointed to the tall buildings outside the window. My heart clenched suddenly, but she changed the subject, looking at me with burning eyes. Since I met you, since I heard your thoughts, everything has changed. When I'm agitated, listening to those messy complaints in your head calms my emotions. When I'm desperate, listening to your thoughts about food, wine, and movies, I feel like the world isn't so bad after all. Julian Vance. She reached out and gently covered the back of my hand with hers. Her hand was still cold, but this time I didn't feel cold. Your thoughts are my medicine. It's the only medicine in the world that can cure me. My brain completely crashed. She means that my inner thoughts are her medicine. Looking at her eyes filled with earnestness, for the first time, I felt my heart lose its weight. This woman, this ice-cold female CEO, I always considered nuisance. Turns out, in her world, my aimless, random thoughts were actually the only light.